Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to our SITSI webinar on the state of the cloud market and the key trends for 2019. Your host will be my colleague Mathieu Poujol. My name is Wiebke Lörcher. I'm part of the marketing team of technology. At the beginning, I would like to briefly explain the question function in this webinar. During the webinar, you can post your questions in the question panel on the right-hand side. Mathieu will respond to these questions at the end of the webinar. If the time will run out at the end, your questions will be answered by email, so nothing gets lost. This session will be recorded, and we will share the video and the presentation right after the webinar with you. And now I'm happy to hand over to my colleague Mathieu.
Yes, thank you, Wiebke. Mathieu Poujol speaking. So I'm happy to have you this afternoon for, let's say, two reasons. The first reason, as you have maybe seen, we have changed name, we have changed logo. So for all of us, it's like a premiere this webinar. So I'm very happy to be with you executing this webinar with our new logo and our new name, Technology. So yeah, you will less hear about PAC, BARC, Hardware, or CXP, and more about Technology, our new brand name. So I'm Mathieu Poujol. I'm in charge of cloud security and infrastructure. And today I will present you, let's say, a sort of the start of the art in 2018 and what we should prepare for 2019. So here is a little bit the main question that we will try to answer. Of course, we cannot go in all the details because, as you can see, they are very, very wide and interesting question that will merit much more explanation. But briefly, we'll try to speak about those subjects and give you a little bit of our knowledge on those topics. So, the challenge, as you know, everything starts with challenge. For this, what I have taken this presentation is one of our survey on digital transformation, because of course you are not doing cloud for doing cloud. You are doing cloud mainly for digital transformation. And where are we in this digital transformation? On this survey that was run not long time ago, we have seen that we have, of course, a front runner, as you've seen, 40% that are totally focused on a digital transformation. Then we have the other company. But the most interesting is to see that only 4% of the company we survey really have not started the digital transformation, which means that this transformation is there, and you know it will stay. Why people are doing this? Is business pressure, very business-centric pressure. We can see it on the right part of the screen. It's about competition, opportunities, functionality, customer. You know, it's really driven by the customer more than what we have before in the IT that was very often driven by optimization, more internal stuff. What we see in digital transformation is really external pressure that would drive this transformation. The objective, and that's where it starts to be interesting for people who know IT for a long time like me. It's for I don't know, 20 years I've been in the business. For 20 years, we speak a lot about cost reduction, But as we see here, there is three topics that are more important than cost reduction. And that's very, very interesting. You know, performance and availability. Clear, you know, to boost the business, because the business, as they are getting digital, they need to be performing, and the performance comes from the underlying infrastructure. Compliance, data allocation, security, we'll get back to there. Very, very important. As you put more and more value on the digital channel, you have to protect them as you protect, for example, your warehouses. You know, you have to have security guards. So that's the same. And also very interesting, innovation. Digital is about innovation, and that's very interesting to see it there. The point that is very important is behind all of this is the cloud computing. The cloud computing is what make this possible. That's why we will get deeper in our analysis there. So the digital value chain for us, it's quite simple. It's around 5 defined topics: scalability, flexibility, modular service application, of course, to be agile, open but secure IT system, because we are in an ecosystem-driven economy. So the system has to be open, but on the same side, they have to be secure. Automated and optimized. Sure, we have now the capacity of making more with less, or making it more quickly, less prone to error. That's very important. And a point that sometimes is forgotten in cloud computing, but that for me is very, very important, is the full stack management, meaning that you have to manage from the business to the network. And don't forget the network. Everything run on networks those days, so you should not forget this part, and it's very important in cloud architecture, but not forgetting stuff like storage and, of course, security. So that's why we're seeing a very extended management capacity to make cloud. What is interesting, you know, you can see the nice icon there. You can see the Industry 4.0, the automated cars, the smart city. All of this, all those buzzwords today are based and operated on cloud platform. Cloud is manifold, but everything is based on this type of platform. As I said, cloud is very heterogeneous, and also we will not dump all the legacy. Just to pick, when I started 20 years ago in the IT, my IT professor was saying that because of Unix system, we will not have a mainframe anymore. We really don't have Unix anymore, except Linux, of course, but we still have mainframes. So legacy very often are there to stay, especially the big corporate application and so on. Also, the cloud is not homogeneous. The cloud is really, really differentiated. And because of this, we really speak about hybrid system. So you have your own cloud, the private cloud, the one you are making at home on your premise. You have the managed cloud. So it's like, let's say, cloud outsourcing of managed service. It is a new, more fashionable term. And of course, you have a public cloud, knowing that public cloud is not only about the hyperscalers. There is several offers there in the market. Is more about very mutualized and standardized service than the concept behind hyperscalers. All of this, of course, when we see those systems that are very diverse, there is issue about complexity. As you see, complexity is there very high on what are the barriers. You can see also transparency on cost and usage. At the beginning, when we interview a customer, they were saying, oh yeah, cloud is great, it's not very expensive and so on. Now that we have, let's say, 5 years behind us, when we re-interview those companies, they say, yes, we not have done it for cost, because as it is complex, as it is diverse, they see that is not that inexpensive, and there is issue there. And transparency is very, very important. And as I said before, this transparency on cost and usage has to be evaluated on all the stack, from the network to the business. That's very important. Scalability, why scalability is there is very often because some cloud solution remain limited. Some cloud solution doesn't deliver like the others. Some are limited also by the networks. For example, if you take a big waste company such as Veolia Enterprise, they have not been able to put their IoT system on their trucks in Africa because there was no network. So they have to have traditional IT there because the network were not sufficient to support their full cloud IoT system. And of course, last but not least, security. These have grown very, very high those days. And, you know, thanks to the cloud, I don't know if we have to say thanks, but the cloud is very important. And what is interesting is that cybersecurity and cloud, in fact, to be well used in a company, you have to apply three main core concepts that are visibility, because you know, if you want to manage, if you want to secure something, you know that it exists. You know that you have to be aware of it. So visibility is very important. A holistic approach, as I say, everything is interconnected. So if you have a network problem, it could affect your business service, vice versa, and so on. And of course, and that's where it starts to be difficult, having a unified management platform, or as we say, a single pane of glass. This is very difficult to do, but that should be a sort of graal for the cloud and IT manager. So now we'll get a little bit more on data. So I will present you the data from our SITSI platform, just to give you figures behind what I just said. So if we take the worldwide market, I underline IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, and CNSI's consulting and system integration. As you see, it's important. We're speaking there about millions of euro. Yeah, because we're European companies, so we work in euro. So you see very huge growth until 2021. That's one of the biggest growth in the IT, and it's a very big growth because we are not speaking about few millions. We're speaking about billions. So that's really important. And what is important is that nowadays we think that around 20% of the IT is cloud. But we have evaluated that it will be about 44% by 2021. We can say that in 2022 it will be more than half of the IT will be cloud. So and this is affecting everything. All the countries, industry, company, government, everybody is affected. And what we can say now, and that's a bit sort of conclusion, is that cloud is IT. You know, at one moment we have said mainframe is IT, client server is IT. I think that now we can say that cloud is IT. So when we see about the worldwide leaders, so that's data you can have. I have just take two parts, because if not, I could speak for hours if I have to deliver all our content and figure. But here I just speak about IaaS and consulting and system integration. There is some common company between the two rankings. That of course the three main US-based company, the giant company that are IBM, Accenture, and DXC. But after, if we go a little bit more into details, we see that in the IaaS ranking, there is two companies that are really getting out of the crowd. It's Amazon, because of their market share that is around 20%, and Microsoft that is having unbelievable growth very, very high growth, and we are thinking that very, very soon Microsoft will be the challenger of Amazon. You have to know, and this is 2017 data. As you know, in the IaaS space, when you have growth around 30%, sometimes 40%, you know, things can change very quickly. The other type of player that exists in the IaaS world, there are the telecom operators. So there you can see guys like T-System, which is the service arm of Dutch Telecom, but also some outsourcers like Atos, or some hosting company like a Rackspace, and of course the hyperscalers. If we look at the global system integrators, of course we see the big one. As you see, they have a lot of growth. Most of them have a lot of growth. We are not far from having the top 10 of IT service company present there, but it's very interesting to see that the main leader are also leader in the cloud, because a point that is very important at the beginning, you do cloud computing nearly on his own. It's a very front office, but as you progress in the cloudification of your system, you will need to link it to the other system, to other cloud, okay, but also to the legacy. And then you have to know better the business, you have to know better the legacy, and there, of course, the global SIs, they are supreme. They are the best. They know very well their client, so that's why they are leading this part of the ranking. So now we'll get a little bit deeper on the cloud usage. First, a bit of a conceptual slide there. In fact, when we speak about cloud, it's about software-defined whatever. You know, we started at the beginning with the virtual machine, then we put software-defined everywhere. So normally, if you want your system to be really cloudified, everything has to be software-defined, from the application to the network to the hardware. On this, is very important to apply also security, and the security have to be on the same type of architecture. If not, it will not work. Which means that as you're getting to the cloud, you have also to change the architecture of your security system. Then also it's important to have management capacity. As we have seen before, management capacity are very important because your system are complex, because you want to reconcile the cost and the usage, because you have a lot of system. So having a management and orchestration capacities is very important. And in fact, that's what we see on this part of our survey, how cloud computing, how digital infrastructure are implemented is very basic stuff like IT operation management, but we're getting to the next level, let's say cloud orchestration. That's important. Also very important, some company are already preparing the next move. With, of course, the API that are existing since the IT exists, but here they speak about the modern API, but also nearly a third of the company who are going to a container-based application, who are the next wave. We will see it when we speak about the trend. Here I put some name that I have interviewed about their cloud architecture. As you can see, they come from very various industry. You have one of the biggest global bank like the Spanish BBVA. BBVA declared that 1/3 of their global IT is, in fact, cloud, and it seems realistic when we see the contract that they have. You have company like, for example, a huge manufacturing company such as General Electric. Some part like General Electric healthcare are all based on the cloud architecture. The telecom operators, of course, all of them are front runner in the cloudification of their IT and their IT for production, which means network cloudification or NFV or SDN. So those companies have gone very far with very extended IT system, as you can imagine, for company of the size of NTT, but also AT&T, Orange, or British Telecom. There is, let's say, good old automotive car company, such as BMW, for example. When you go to choose a new car at BMW, the car configurator is fully based on cloud computing. It's a full OpenStack Kubernetes project. It's the same with PSA. You have the UK government that is in one of the 5 most digital government in the world, and has become very efficient because they move all to the cloud. Walmart, of course, that under the pressure of Amazon has been also targeting now. They are running to get to 40% of their IT in the cloud. The LVMH retail giant with factory everywhere, with shops everywhere, and where the only way to master this was cloud computing. And finally, a company such as Bosch, that obviously is in deep manufacturing, but Bosch is doing around 1 billion out of, I think, 60 or 80 billion, is doing nearly 1 billion in pure IT. And they have several full cloud implementation. So a traditional company such as Bosch has become really a digital company and even a provider of solutions. So that's very interesting to see in those use cases that those companies are becoming, all of them, more IT. Sometimes some of them are proposing their platform to third party, such as what I say with Bosch. So now we get to the trend. So a little bit to the future. What are we saying? As I say, and that could look a little bit provocative, but that's something that we're seeing from the US, in fact, and we know stuff that starts in the US 1 or 2 years after, they will be in the rest of the world, is a return of private cloud. My main explanation behind this is quite very simple, is that some of the companies want to have a better control in their value chain. So that's important. It's also better for cost. I was mentioning Walmart in the interview I get with Walmart. They told me that in computing, their own internal public cloud system are running at 20% less expensive than what they can rent, because you have to name the stuff by their name, to what you can rent with the best-in-class hyperscaler. And it turned to be more than 40% when you are in storage. So 20% gain in computing, 40% gain in storage. So, of course, it's Walmart, one of the biggest companies in the world that can have economy of scale and so on. But let's say that not everything is black and white, and we've seen a return of the private cloud. It's the same if you are a telecom operator, you will not let all your IT in the end of other technology provider. It's the same if you are running a plane or a car, you will not do this. So you will see each time I make some quotes from those meetings that I put there. DevOps, of course, DevOps. So DevOps, there is a lot of terms around DevOps. It started with agility, which was really development oriented, but also you can have a CI/CD. That's something that is quite booming those days. because we are able to reconcile or try to reconcile the time frame between the development and the operation. And as you can guess, the most interesting is, of course, the time to market and the alignment with the business objective. But the biggest issue, of course, is the human factor, because I don't know if you know people from the devs and people from the ops. They are very different. And also, it will be even more difficult in the future, because in the future, we'll very soon speak about DevSecOps. So having the security guy inside, who are even more stubborn than the ops guys. So I tell you, it will be interesting to see what's happening there. Other trends, microservice, of course, and microservice, in fact, they show a trend that is very interesting. The first, let's say, the first age of the cloud computing was really what I call, but maybe it's not true, but was a sort of cloud mainframe. We re-centralize everything around few data centers and so on. That was, let's say, the first age of cloud computing. Now, I'm guessing that with some need, especially around the operational system, OT, and so on, and IoT, we are seeing, and the microservices are very instrumental there, we are seeing more what we call edge computing, so meaning that the cloud is starting to decentralize. It's starting to decentralize because we cannot manage everything from the center. It's too costly, it's taking, there is too much lagging in network. So network are not able to respond immediately. So it's better to have some computing that start to be distributed. So he reminds us the fight between the mainframe and the client server some 20 years ago. But yeah, that's what's happening also in the cloud. And there, microservices are very important. And microservices are also very important because they adapt very well with the DevOps culture. In fact, you know, they are really like this image of the Lego, you know, that you can assemble very quickly. Then there is another part, and this we are seeing it more and more. It's the colonization, let's say, of the OT by the IT. In fact, as we have seen with the storage, with the network, everything is becoming IT. Specific technology are disappearing, and then we have really IT technology quite standardized that are ruling the world. And that's what we are seeing now, this IT conquering OT. It has a lot of impact, meaning that the IT provider, meaning that the IT department will start to enter the shop floors, which was not easy before. So that's a very big tendency, and I'm seeing when I'm interviewing service provider, software provider, that they are all preparing their offer, and some of them already are winning there, and it's a very, very promising market. Then, of course, very important trend, cybersecurity. You cannot do digital transformation. Is very simple. You cannot do digital transformation if you don't have cybersecurity. There is so much accident, so much attacks. I will not go on the fear factor, but that's something cybersecurity, like what was has been done over the year with testing. Cybersecurity, like testing, has to be taken at the inception of the project. That's why I was speaking about DevSecOps. So it's very important to have this in mind, to have cybersecurity in mind, to be collaborative with the cybersecurity people inside the company. They are starting to have more and more power. There is more and more law against this, country law, continental law, industry specific law. So that's important. And also, let's say that this advent of the cloud computing has make open source shine again and become, enter its second age. Well, what I mean there is that most of the internet technology are based on the open source. And while before I was saying that most of the buzzwords are running on cloud computing, I could have said most of the today buzzword like IoT, Devops, and so on are running on open source cloud platform. So that's quite important to have this in mind. And you know, for users, it's very interesting because it permits not to concentrate on standard and stuff that can be mutualized, but really for you to focus where the added value is. So we are thinking that the open source movement is now have achieved adult status. Sorry, as you can guess from my accent, I'm French. Some English words are a bit difficult for me. So adult status. I think that everybody in a tender, for example, should have an open source option. I don't say that's the best for everything. For example, before there was a quote of one of the manager of Schneider Electric. They have a time to market constraint. They have a big habit of working with Microsoft, so they go to Microsoft IoT platform because that was the best for their business. So we are not fanatic of open source, but there is a choice with open source that is interesting to evaluate. So now we pass to the final part of this presentation. Technologies, you know, I was about to say pack recommendation, you know, names stay for long, but now I have to say technology. So our recommendation, the basic one, integration. That's a point that is very funny. Since I started IT, integration is always there. That's why we always have the need for IT service company, because integration is everywhere, and as systems are getting more complex, you need more integration. It's a bit the same with automation. As those systems are getting diverse, as they need more and more interaction, as we have less and less people, we have to automate it. And optimization, of course, optimization is always key. If you ask to the business to get optimized, the IT have to get optimized. And this optimization is not only cost optimization. That could be also bandwidth optimization. That could be also energy optimization. I don't know if you're aware, but the data center and the IT is consuming as much green gas as all the aviation. So, you know, it's starting to be important. So all of this is important, and all of this will be translated into cost. So optimization also is very important. You have to optimize the resource you have. And let's say the next level, there is, of course, more governance. So in governance, I'm making very business-centric governance. We've often, for example, the law department, because of the risk those digital systems are putting on a company. I don't know if you remember the Target incident, this American retail chain. It cost them $500 million, and the head of the boss. So yeah, governance is very important. Resilience. So resilience is as you have more and more critical processes that are digitalized, they have to be sturdy, they have to be secure, they have to be able to run. So that's also important, because it will be like you stop your production chain in a factory. So resilience is important. And of course, also the next step is about artificial intelligence. Why? Because it permits a lot of stuff, automation, it permits more governance, more resilience, it permits also more optimization. So intelligent infrastructure system, intelligent cloud system is also the future. So I'm finished now. Thank you for your attention. You have here my new mail. The old one is still working, and don't worry, I think it will work for 2 years from now. But here you have my phone and my mail. Don't hesitate to contact me. And now I will hand over to Vibeke to know if we have a question.
Thank you, Mathieu. Yeah, we got several questions. One is referring to an earlier stage of the webinar. One of the participants asked if you could define what exactly what the exact definition of managed cloud segment. Is it also outsourcing or multi-cloud management services?
Yeah, so what we call managed cloud is really managed service targeting cloud. So in managed service, we could have, in fact, a lot of type of cloud computing, but is done by an outsourcer. Normally, it's more tailor-made than a public cloud. So it's let's say that in short, it could be the outsourcing part of cloud computing. So that's what we see also. We see a lot of companies, in fact, they are making lift to cloud from outsourcing contract. And in fact, they go in those managed cloud contract where there is a lot of specifics. Those managed cloud contract could also include other type of cloud, could include private cloud, public cloud, several public cloud, several private cloud providers. It could include also network function. So yeah, that's for me is a bit of the equivalent of good old outsourcing, but with a cloud flavor.
Then we get another question. You are asked to elaborate on the cybersecurity relation with cloud.
Yeah, that's kind of a very interesting question, because between cloud and cybersecurity is a sort of love and hate relation. Let me explain. For many IT manager, cloud in regard to cybersecurity is a vulnerability generator. You know, it's like it opens their system, new applications are coming, some developers, they go to GitHub and they lost their privilege, and then we get massive attacks. So it's really, really a pain. So that's the first view on cloud computing. But we have run this year a study. Okay, it was concentrated on France, but we run a survey where 65% of the respondents told us that their biggest vulnerability is public cloud, but 63% told us that they use cloud to secure their system, which was very interesting. And in fact, they use cloud. Why? Because that's where they find the most innovative solutions. So that's very interesting. And what we're thinking there is very simple, is that if you want to secure cloud, you have to use cloud. It's that's a sort of mantra, you know, use cloud to secure cloud, because old style cybersecurity is still useful. You have to have this well-defined first line of defense and so on. But when you distribute your system, when you need to run a very sophisticated big data and artificial intelligence system, you can only run it on cloud. While we're speaking now about artificial intelligence and big data, very often when I work, in fact, in artificial intelligence 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were not able to run it. It cannot run at business time, and it's very expensive, and we have to have supercomputers to do this. Now you can run on any cloud. So that's a big difference. And so that's what I say, this relation of love and hate between cloud and cybersecurity, for me, is more like the Asian concept of yin and yang. You know, they are opposite, but they are complementary. And that's what is very interesting in the relation between those two concepts.
And there's one other question. You mentioned that open source is quite complex, and you said complexity is an issue. And how come we use open source without increasing complexity?
Yeah, sure. Sometimes we write stuff like this, and then after we get this type of question. Yes, of course. One of the drawback of open source architecture has always been the complexity. First, there is the complexity in the open source model. So there is a complexity with the licensing, there is complexity with the way you collaborate, and there is complexity in the way you work with the communities. But this part of the complexity, let's say that with time, you can master it. It costs you some money, but with time you can master it, or you can be helped by some system integrator who know well this part of the industry. There is another complexity, that's the technical complexity. Of course, open source originally come out of labs. Originally from really deep IT people, and it's still the case. I was at OpenStack Summit in Berlin. There is so much people who are having a beer and piercing and whatever. So that's really the technology summit. But what is very interesting is that some of those big communities, they have more and more business-oriented people. Meaning that at the beginning, when I was getting to those OpenStack Summit, I was like the only one with a suit. I was a bit ashamed of myself, feeling very old. But now more and more I'm seeing those people in suit, and that's not just only about fashion. I'm seeing this also in the project. The projects are more and more finished. The processes to make the release are better and better. So they're starting to get more and more close to the business needs. So yes, it is maybe a bit more complex, let's say, on the technology and on the way the open source function. But you have to see that there is one huge advantage, is that all of this is very well standardized. So it works quite well all together, which could be a problem of complexity if you have different technology. And also, and that's what most of the, let's say, middle-sized and even some multinational company are doing, they are contracting global system integrator or open source specialist to help them there, to help them get more competency, more expertise, more experience in the open source. So yes, I think that maybe 5 years ago, that was like jumping from a plane with only one parachute. Well, now I feel it quite a bit more secure, and I'm seeing, frankly, more and more companies. It's another stuff where you can tell that the technology is mature. It's a secret that I give you, is that you see more and more French people. French people, they don't like the cutting edge innovation conference where everybody is happy about stuff that are not existing. But I know this for 20 years. I have seen it on the market. When you start to have a lot of French people or a lot of German people in a conference, is that those technology are maturing. So I'm thinking that now those technology are fairly mature and ready to use. Of course, you have, and that's the most important point, and we have done several missions on this, you have to see the resources. If there is resources that are close to you, because proximity with this type of system is very important.
So far, there are no additional questions, Mathieu. So yeah, I just repeat that there is the option to ask via email every time you want to get in contact with Mathieu or the SITSI team. Don't hesitate to use the email and the contact data you see here or already have in your inbox. Yeah, we'd like to thank you for your attention and that you spent some time with us, and wish you a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.